Today, we're taking the glitz off old Hollywood to reveal the dark side of fame. There's no shortage of doomed stars in old Hollywood. From horrific accidents to spiraling addictions, these famous actors met tragic ends that made history. No amount of beauty, talent, or fame could save these poor souls from the horrors fate had in store for them. Below, we explore the tragic stories of these legendary figures whose lives ended too soon. For a time, Jean Harlow was the biggest star in Hollywood, but in 1937, her health took a terrifying turn. She had been mildly ill for months, but while filming Saratoga, the star began to complain of nausea, bloating, and abdominal pain. It got so bad that she had to lean on her co-star and friend, Clark Gable, between takes. When they found out the truth, it was already too late. Harlow took time off work to recover from what doctors now diagnosed as an inflamed gallbladder. However, when Clark Gable visited her, he was heartbroken to find her severely bloated with, astonishingly, the smell of urine on her breath. Soon after that, medical professionals confirmed that the young, beautiful girl was in the final stages of kidney failure, and it was only going to get worse. Harlow worked for months throughout her illness, tirelessly trying to please her exploitative studio heads while becoming weaker and weaker. She was so determined to curry their favor that she even attended the Oscars ceremony in 1936 while incredibly ill. She was apparently so sick that fellow actress Carole Lombard had to help her reapply her makeup in the powder room. The warning signs were there, but no one paid attention to them. Harlow's pallid complexion, many illnesses, and even an earlier severe sunburn all pointed to kidney failure, yet everyone missed the bigger picture. As one MGM writer later wrote of Harlow's utterly senseless end, the day baby died. There wasn't one sound in the commissary for 3 hours. On June 6, 1937, Harlow was taken to the hospital. That night, she slipped into a coma. By the next morning, she was gone. She was only 26 years old. Before her passing, Harlow was reportedly reading Gone with the Wind. She even packed it for her last hospital visit, causing one of the nurses to look at the tome tearfully and say, "She'll never finish it." Barbara Payton is a woman who once captivated Hollywood with her beauty and charm, but ultimately fell victim to the dark side of fame. Barbara Payton was never shy about using her undeniable charm to get what she wanted. But as we will see, that same magnetism came back to haunt her. Struggling to make ends meet, she went on a date with a producer and boldly asked him for a role. His answer was brutally honest: he had no roles available, but he would gladly pay her for one night together. Desperate for money, Payton accepted his offer, convincing herself that it was just a one-time deal. Little did she know that this choice would lead her down a dark path with only one tragic outcome. After a series of dates with different men, Barbara met the man she nicknamed Fortune. But Fortune was no ordinary guy. He was a powerful mobster operating out of the gambling town of Searchlight, Nevada. Payton moved in with him, but soon found herself banned from his casino. Bored and restless, she began drinking and became a high-class worker. Eventually, a dangerous situation forced her to leave Searchlight. One night, an official who owed her a favor called her in for a meeting. He gave her terrible news: the authorities were going to raid Fortune's property in just a few days. Fearing for her safety, Payton quickly slept with several men to raise enough money to return to Hollywood. Upon returning to Los Angeles, she was faced with a terrifying reality. No one cared about the once promising actress. She approached friends, agents, and producers hoping for work offers, but all she received were offers that exploited her fading fame. Left with no choice, she reluctantly agreed to their terms, but unfortunately, her declining status meant she could no longer charge much. This only deepened her spiral of self-destruction. By the 1960s, Payton's struggles with alcohol and drug addiction were making it increasingly difficult for her to charge high prices for her services. Her living conditions worsened, and she found herself living in poverty on Sunset Boulevard. Despite her deteriorating mental state, she sought solace in writing poetry, selling it for as little as $7. But her problems were far from over. In February 1967, Payton's drinking reached a new low when authorities found her passed out near a dumpster on Sunset Boulevard. She was offered a place in detox, but she flatly refused, saying that she would rather drink her whole life away. With no other options, a county social worker took her back to her parents' home in San Diego, hoping that they would help her turn things around. Unfortunately, that decision sealed Payton's fate. When the social worker took Barbara to her parents, their reaction was chilling. Instead of helping her overcome her addiction, they actually encouraged it. The three of them went on long binges that only made her condition worse. Payton even admitted to a neighbor that she never wanted to be with them again, but felt trapped in a cycle of drinking. By 1967, Barbara was gravely ill from years of alcohol abuse and addiction. On May 8 of that year, after battling her inner demons for far too long, her heart and liver finally failed at the age of just 39. She was cremated and buried in San Diego. Barbara Payton experienced both the highest highs and the lowest lows of her life, an incredible journey that cut short what could have been a brilliant acting career. Although her time on this earth was short, many remember her as a vibrant personality who truly lived life to the fullest. The final moments of starlet Olive Thomas's short life are both shrouded in mystery and steeped in horror. Thomas and her husband, Jack Pickford, were on a trip to Paris that served as a last-ditch effort to save their marriage. However, they fell into old habits, partying until dawn at the city's rowdiest nightclubs. On one such night, they stumbled home, and Pickford fell into bed while Thomas searched for something to help her sleep. What happened next became the subject of one of old Hollywood's very first scandals, and one of its most twisted mysteries. At 3 a.m. on September 6, 1920, she and Pickford staggered into their hotel to grab some sleep before starting it all over tomorrow. But while Pickford went straight to bed, Thomas stayed up for a while longer. It would be her doom. Out of nowhere, Thomas's husband awoke to a blood-curdling sound. From the bathroom, the bourbon-soaked Pickford heard Olive screeching, "Oh my God!" He rushed inside to see what was the matter. The still tipsy and upset Thomas begged her husband to find out what was in the bottle she had just ingested. As Pickford recalled, "I picked it up and read, 'Poison.'" Then the details began to fall into place. While ambling around the hotel room, Thomas had gone to the bathroom cabinet and tried to drink either water or a sleeping tonic. Instead, in a cruel irony, she had picked up Pickford's external medication that he was supposed to apply on his painful syphilis sores and ingested it. The mercury bichloride solution was potentially fatal, and in an instant, Olive Thomas's world spun and exploded. As soon as Jack Pickford got a grip on what was going on, he rushed his wife to the American hospital in a suburb of Paris, and then he got to praying. For nearly a week, Thomas stayed in the hospital and fought for her life as the mercury ravaged her body. Yet outside the hospital walls, a different and perhaps more scandalous battle was raging. Every newspaper in America and beyond fixated on Olive Thomas and the circumstances around her poisoning. Some of the theories were incredibly dark. Many publications suggested Thomas had tried to harm herself after finding out about another of Pickford's infidelities, while others claimed the attempt was because Pickford had given her syphilis. But there was one more disturbing possibility. According to some articles, Thomas hadn't tried to kill herself instead, Pickford had done that for her. In this version of events, the philandering actor had tricked the young starlet into drinking the poison so he could get a grab at her insurance money. This suggestion kicked the case into overdrive, and Pickford had to respond somehow. While Olive Thomas grew weaker in her bed, she had officially become one of the first Hollywood scandals, and Jack Pickford was under the public's intense microscope. For his part, Pickford always claimed the accusations against him were nothing but lies, stating that Olive and I were the greatest pals on earth. not that Thomas had long on that earth. At first, doctors hoped beyond hope that the actress would make a miraculous recovery. She was alert and awake for most of her stay in the hospital. According to Pickford himself, his wife kept calling for him, and he never left her bedside if he could help it. Yet even as Thomas fought harder than she ever had in her life, the medics suspected the end was near. As the hours turned into days, Olive Thomas took a heartbreaking turn. Although she was conscious, the mercury was nonetheless destroying her internal organs all the while. Eventually, the doctors discovered that the poison had paralyzed her kidneys. It was the end for the beautiful Olive Thomas, and it was as ugly as it was tragic. Thelma Todd, a brilliant comedienne who shared the screen with legends such as Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton, and the Marx Brothers, was a shining star in the comedy world, but her incredible career was cut short in 1935 when she was found lifeless from carbon monoxide poisoning at just 30 years old. At first, officials ruled her death a suicide. However, this conclusion seemed to contradict both her personal and professional life. She had no apparent motive for her self-harm. As the story unfolded, rumors began to swirl around her lover, Roland West, with some suggesting that he was responsible for her murder. In fact, it was even claimed that he confessed to the crime on his deathbed. Ultimately, it is a heartbreaking and dark turn for such a talented and funny woman to meet such an unfunny end. Maria Montez is a star who was as much a magnet for scandal as she was a dazzling actress. In her early years, Montez practically invented the publicity stunt, attracting headlines and attention. But as she aged, she craved respect and recognition as a serious actress. Unfortunately, Hollywood had other plans, and she found herself cast out of the industry she loved. But the bitterness of her career struggles paled in comparison to the dark fate that awaited her. At the height of her fame, the name Maria Montez became synonymous with tropical beauty and alluring mystery. This was not only due to her captivating on-screen performances, it also had to do with her deep belief in astrology. When a famous Hollywood mystic made a chilling prediction about her future, Montez took it to heart, and so did everyone else. During a visit to renowned astrologer Blanca Holmes, Montez received a bad omen. After consulting her astrological charts, Holmes warned that Montez's life would be short and that her end would come suddenly. Spoiler alert, Holmes was right. In a tragic twist of fate, Maria Montez suffered a heart attack while soaking in a hot bath. Perhaps it was a consequence of her adventurous lifestyle, or perhaps it was simply fate. In a scene that seemed to have come straight out of one of her glamorous films, the Technicolor queen slipped underwater. The discovery of her lifeless body was as heartbreaking as the circumstances of her death. Her sisters found her with only her forehead poking above the surface of the water. They immediately called for help, and paramedics rushed to perform CPR. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. On August 5, 1962, the world was shocked when Marilyn Monroe's lifeless body was discovered in her Brentwood, California home. She was found lying in bed, holding a telephone. At just 36 years old, the beloved star's life had been cut short in a heartbreaking way. The coroner's report stated that Marilyn probably committed suicide by taking an overdose of barbiturates. However, several strange details surrounding her death have led many to doubt that there is more to the story. For example, experts only tested the toxicology of Monroe's liver. When a deputy coroner attempted to obtain her other organs for further testing, he was informed that they had been destroyed. This has given rise to numerous conspiracy theories about her demise. Some sources, including her close friend Marlon Brando, believe that foul play may have been involved. The most prominent theories suggest that either Bobby Kennedy or the CIA played a role in her death. The Kennedy theory is that he wanted to silence Marilyn about their alleged affair, while the CIA's motivation may have come from anger at Bobby's handling of the Bay of Pigs disaster. As of 2020, these conspiracies remain unproven, shrouded in mystery. At Marilyn's funeral later that year, an open casket allowed a select few to pay their respects. She wore an apple green nylon jersey dress and held pink roses. Unfortunately, the autopsy had partially shaved off her signature platinum blonde hair, so she was buried in a wig. Only about 30 close friends and family members attended, as she had requested an intimate farewell. One of the most touching aspects of this story is Joe DiMaggio's devotion. For 20 years after Marilyn's death, he sent roses to her crypt 3 times a week. Despite outliving her by 36 years, he never remarried. His last words were said to have been, "I'm finally going to see Marilyn." It's especially heartbreaking to think that by the time she died, they had rekindled their relationship and were even planning to remarry. Marilyn Monroe's death continues to carry an air of mystery and intrigue that captivates new generations. If you found these stories as gripping as we did, be sure to like and subscribe for more details about the lives of Hollywood legends.